Okay, we are starting now, so we are on time. So you'll be able to go back home safely at the right time. So you have the floor. Good afternoon to everybody. So I know it's difficult to talk, to be the first one to talk in the afternoon. It's a hard task. I just wanted to remind you that the interventions this morning were extremely interesting, and they define a very rich panorama landscape. And I was pleased, extremely pleased about the reference to sustainability topic, because we produce on the territory the value of sustainability, which is characteristic of our land, of our territory. There were also many references to innovation, so sustainability and innovation. So I would like to be very clear. I would like to remember a few projects financed by Prima Foundation: microbic safety of food stuff, tomato industry, sustainability of olive tree cultivation, strategy for planting of strawberries, value of cheese, and other projects for an efficient use of water resources. These are some of the examples. There are 36 projects which were financed by making reference to 2018. In 2019, for a total value of 40, the value in 18 was 48 million, for 19, 60 million. So what do? We finance projects in innovation, and so projects which have in application in the Mediterranean area. So our ambition, our foundation is composed by the representative of the government of the 19 countries of the Mediterranean area, so that which finance this foundation, that with the direct participation of the European Commission. So there is an important initiative with a total budget of €500 million. So it's a sort of scientific diplomacy. So the first reason for which this foundation was established, and under the promotion of Italy, and we must say that the Italian government is very near to us. The first reason is that the Mediterranean area is maybe the most fragile area with respect to climate change. Fragile area in the world. Why this? Because sometimes I talk about this subject around the world. Many times people outside the Mediterranean area are more conscious about that than we are what we are. So this is an extremely fragile area, and we are inside it. We must do our best. I mean, any efforts in order to face all the issues which are present and which will come out in the future, so that we can find solutions and responses which are shared among us, because problems, issues do not stop at the border with France or other countries or Spain. So it's very important to face these problems together with strong motivation and co-financing. So the first reason for the creation of this foundation is that we must work together. So even human resources must be financed together. And this will have a spillout on territory. We have an important budget. It's not a great budget. So we'll do our best, and the others also, the other players also, understand that there are solutions. We also we would like to highlight there were, they have said many beautiful things this morning, and there are certainly, we must say, the agri-food contribute to climate changes. We are conscious of that, and this didn't happen before. We can talk about plastic, for example. Until 1 year ago, we talked about, not very frequently, about the problem of plastic. Now cotton field are prohibited, for example. So when the public opinion is involved, we can have important consequences. So agri-food also is a sector which is seen as an important point in this change. So it's a subject we cannot prevent to discuss about, and we must go to that direction. The second reason for which this foundation operates and prepare this call for funding is that this can help in the economical growth and the social development of this country, the South Coast. And this is certainly in the interest of any of us. We allow these countries to grow up. Also, migration phenomena will be reduced. So if we allow this agriculture, this economy to grow, this can be a reference point with respect to this phenomena. A third reason is that we are trying to build a platform in order to put in contact innovative action enterprises, Italian and the other areas. This is an important question, and there can be important opportunities. So we put at the disposal of our operator a Mediterranean vision, which for certain operators, for certain certification, can be a source of opportunities. Certainly what we perceive in the south coast of the Mediterranean, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Jordan, the Republic of Jordan, it's an Italian experience on the value of quality. So there's a lot of reference to our model. So certainly we have open doors. What we have to see is we must just have to see if we want to explore it, use these opportunities, or we consider them as threats. So it will be appropriate to be quick in doing this. This is just to summarize the main objectives of Prima Foundation. In this year, we were lucky because we obtained a good support from the government. So the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Education, we were able to create of the Italian Secretariat of Prima, and it is at the disposal of research and operator in order to face four main issues. The first one is to help in the building, in creating this platform in order to put innovation on the two coasts, between the two countries, the countries of the two coasts. And then appreciate the most innovating experiences, because innovation is important if it's not isolated. So by scaling it, it is giving it visibility, we can promote changes. And so we created a digital platform where we are collecting all the most interesting cases in order to share these cases. So cases of innovation, technological innovation. We talked about this innovation in this morning, agriculture 4.0, growing, etc., and also for the innovation as far as management is concerned. So this platform is at your disposal. The third lever at your disposal is the training subject. We said this morning that certain new professionals in the agri-food field will not only the traditional ones, we will have new professional profiles coming from other area, technical area. This is a great opportunity for our young people. So we'll try to promote this part. Another point which is extremely important for the Italian Secretariat is to put in contact researcher and the agricultural world, and see which are the possible replies. So all the enterprise do not access easily to the innovation, the world of innovation, but if we create these phases where we can make an effort to understand which are the requirements and try to find a reply at the national level, it's very important. And then we talk about facilitating financing, and in order to understand which are the answers which can be given to financial need of different companies or holdings, because rentability is extremely important for the company, for the enterprises. So a very concrete point, we are very pleased because we are creating very strong relation with Qualivita, and we are at the disposal of everyone in order to put all these points at the disposal of everyone. And thank you, Angelo. Now there is a summary of the working session. The first group, consumers and local community. This is a summarizing sheet. I believe we were able to collect all the instances of speakers who took part this morning and they are summarized in this chart where expectation with respect to what asked. It is all the regulation structure in order to comply with the consumers' requirements. So the regulation system and the current regulation system we should allow consortium to be on the market, not only for equality, but also in relation with values. In particular, it refers to the weakest point of the supply chain. So looking for dialogue and confrontation with consumers and authorities and local communities. Also for the system, information system, general information media, which sometimes is not doesn't pay too much attention to our needs, to our requirements, but also these imply also an engagement, a commitment by enterprises in order to look for a system vision. We do not look only to the corporate profit as a heritage of the local producer, because improper action do have a negative impact on consumers, but also on the meaning of the denomination. So favor a greater interaction with consumers in order to increase perception of denominations from the tourist point of view. This is an opportunity which is at our disposal and an opportunity that we can transfer to the territory in order to apply it to the other economic reality. Very synthetic, thank you, and efficient evolution of the governance. Different points came out where we try to classify them into categories of subjects, which will translate them in a concrete way. So the idea is to promote a reorganization in the field of MIPART and also of other bodies, in order to have organizations, in order and also organize under a central organization, central direction, all the AGP and certified product, keeping on one side the part of concerning controls and assurance and quality assurance or respect of rules. As far as institutions are concerned, it's a teamwork, but we must revise rules of consortia in order to adapt to new requirements, so to work about the concept of obligation to participate. So we had experience this morning, extremely important. There is a need for having a classification today of a consortia, and we should be able to classify different requirements and different commitments, but with participation to tools and politics, which depends on the nature of a subject, which is an aspect of concerning the evolution of consortium. Startups are different from consortia, which have a multi-annual experience. So I would like to recall to your attention to one point. I was reading yesterday, the first point, Article 4 of Regulation 351. The objective of this regulation is to help producer farmers in order to ensure the right remuneration for quality of their products. So the first objective is economic, so to have an equal remuneration. So consortia should not have only a marketing task, but also improve the quality. So this is not in contrast, what we have said is not in contrast with the original law. And therefore we should also find new tools in order to contribute to a sound participation to the consortia chain. So for those who will have to grant the new movement, we must see the memorandum, the regulations governing the consortia, in order to be sure to have consistent response from the bottom. So this is the regulator task. There is another challenge here. We must change the role, be a regulator of the market, means not only to acquire resources, but also professional competences which do not exist today in most of consortia. So there are no regulator. So we must think about the training and education of this in order to comply with these requirements. And lastly, the involvement of enterprises and holdings, all subjects, this is a remark I would like to make, rules are not the only important thing. I mean, decrees are not the only important things, but at the end, it's very important. I mean, the important thing is the involvement of producer and enterprise in the consortium. So how much of the turnover for of the product is invested in the consortium? My consortium was on one of the biggest one. So the main difference is not between Parmigiano Reggiano and the small consortium, but a consortium where an important percentage of a turnover is paid up, and other consortium where the small enterprise doesn't invest. So without an economical link, you do not believe in the consortium. So it's very difficult to exchange the commitment. This is an important point on which we must work to create new governance. Fabio Del Bravo, new PAC.
Buonasera. Per quanto riguarda la PAC,
the new CAP, sorry. As far as the CAP is concerned, we have these elements. The CAP 2020 is moving on two directions. The first is for the geographical condition, geographic indication. So it will be determined from this point of view to simplify, as it is important to point out. It will be important to point out, as far as streamlining is concerning, simplification doesn't mean to reduce controls, but making them more efficient. So we must prepare in time, structure and organization structures in order to face this kind of problem. The second direction is the development of the strategic national plan, and it will be important to draw this plan in order to introduce in it a strategy of support to geographical indication. There can be many objectives. One of these is certainly the sector, the possibility to create new sample. There is a very important pool from which we can extract new possibility of geographical indication. So new elements, and these represent new elements, and these represent a way to create a new order in order to direct investment, and also where we must disinvest because the investments are not useful. Policy targets are consortium and enterprise are the targets. As far as consortia are concerned, we should consider politics and policies used to direct resources of the future plan for the activity of consortium, and certainly for the enterprise, the geographical indication enterprises, we have to face the topic of sustainability, ethic, animal well-being, etc. So this plan absolutely important and a good opportunity in order to grow this kind of objective and to achieve these objectives. So the fourth group, international agreement. Some important results of our panel. First of all, towards the institution, European Commission, government seen as a unique counterpart, and for consortia, a greater coordination for these instances in order to draw up lists for protection, support to geographic denomination which are out of the list, and secondly, but also essential, when we talk about this, when there are agreements which are outside, we would like to be involved and give our approval before seeing results on the media. And these open also another important point about the ownership of the right, which has never been to assert certain things. And this is one of the most important aspects which has been found when approval or bilateral agreements are concerned. So we should improve this aspect, definition of list, and also exceptions. Another recommendation and strong idea with respect to institutions, the government and consortia. Once again, the Italian government has unique counterpart and embassies in order to favor the monitoring, protection of law on third-party markets, in order to favor to scale economy as far as resources to be devoted to promotions are concerned. Another point concern, for example, institutions such as the European Community, safeguard with respect to Lisbon Agreement and the exercise of the right of vote within the Agreement of Geneva, because the proposal made by the European Commission to adhere to the Agreement of Geneva without allowing the member states to adhere so will not allow to continue with the Lisbon Agreement principles, but will give no right of vote to the other member of state. And so the Parliament was much more receptive about the instances with respect to the Commission of Legal Affairs. It is important also to understand that protection is an essential step. There is not only definition, common rules, protection, etc., but the fact of being copied, the fact of being the subject of breach of rights is a sign of success. So we must favor and allow the small consortia, which are not protected thanks to the list, which are in the European, drawn by the European Commission. So consortia and enterprise should ask the member state, in this case Italy, and also the European Commission, economic support tools for the production. This has been affirmed also for innovation. So tools and economical support for protection. We talk here about a legal suit concerning, for example, geographical indication, which sometimes require investment for a lot of money. So it is important to approve the regulation on protection. Last subject, sustainability. Good morning again, also in this session. It was quite clear that we needed to have an institutional reference, a clear reference at an institutional level, in order to define a strategy and objectives as far as sustainability is concerned. The second point is the public institution has to define guidelines on sustainability, environmental, economic and social and sustainability, which may represent a basis for acknowledgement of private standard and other initiative on sustainability. Another point is that we should face the issue of sustainability in a unique way in order not to have different approach with respect to this subject, but everyone should consider this subject according to the three pillars, social, environmental, and economical, where the economical pillar is absolutely strong also for the social and environmental subject. The reference standard should be a very robust one in order to be affirmed on the international market and be recognized as an added value. Therefore, requirements should be verified, measurable, and objectives, and can be certified by a third authority. Therefore, the private standard and not only within the set of regulations control plan. A third point is a need to share with enterprise the issues concerning sustainability within the geographical indication in order not to have the same product which is declared sustainable but with completely different significance, meaning. Therefore, it is important to have a strong investment as far as promotion is concerned on the international and national markets, and this has to be done thanks to private initiative, so a strong action on all markets in order to bring value and revenue to this enterprise. Thank you very much. A few words before giving the floor to Simona Caselli, where the region is one of the more important about the geographical indication, which is the purpose of this working day, and with this fact sheet. Certainly, according to the agreement we made with the minister, we'll send them to the Ministry for Agriculture, and then we'll send them to all the candidate of the next electoral campaign for the next European election. So there will be part of this person, with people will be part of the European Parliament. So our activity, we want to disseminate this message, and will not end today, but will go on in the next few months. So this is a kickoff in order to have the next, we just can resume this subject with the next Parliament. So Simone Caselli, please maintain the 5 minutes for conclusion, because we'll leave at 4 o'clock p.m.
I would like to excuse myself with Paolo De Castro, and because I have to leave early. But I'm going to be speaking about the CAP proposals. And actually, if you are not part of the Arepo network, I suggest that you join, because they are definitely European networks that have privileged connections with the Commission. First of all, congratulations for the format of this event, thanks to Qualivita, and I really learned a lot from it, and I would like to make some quick remarks. First of all, something that should not be given for granted is that consortia are needed, and they have to be organized for everything. I can tell you that several protected designations or geographical indications are not represented by a consortium. And so, as we were able to see in the previous slides, if you do not have protection consortia, it is really hard to protect the producers of the GI. Also, you need to have quality. Be careful, because these are quality products or quality foodstuff. But quality has to be maintained. It's a continuous endeavor. You should never give that for granted. When there are price issues, for instance, you need to keep controlling what is going on. Whereas quality, you should never change it. So in order to have good quality, you need to have innovations. And innovation can bring some extraordinary solutions, and that can be linked also to the development of the set of production rules. So, for instance, if you, let's say, you're practicing precision agriculture, and while you're doing that, you set up the traceability system, then it becomes easier. So if you start thinking in these terms, you can have the third generation precision agriculture that can serve a high-quality system, and therefore a good positioning of Italy. But also, as it comes to traceability and controls, there are some striking innovative systems to verify the origin of the raw materials, but also to process things in a certain manner. And then we have a great theme of traceability and certification. Who issues the certifications? We have this fascinating world of blockchains, but it's kind of complicated. So as far as I'm concerned, if people can access important databases all over the world, they can access our database as well. So as to the consumer pacts or pact with consumers and local authorities, I believe that there is an evident relation with the territory, and also we need to work on the economic benefits of agriculture. I believe that has to be enhanced as well. As to the governance, many interesting things were said. What Besati said was absolutely very true. If you don't have a strong investment from the producers on the consortium, it doesn't work. So you need to believe in the consortiums, you need to engage yourself in it. Another essential thing is that I think you need to license up state aid to consortia, because consortia do not market anything. So if you release a little bit those rules, perhaps the consortia can work better in terms of economic terms. And Mr. Perotta, or something like that, was very right when saying that it can be, some things can be avoided. Sometimes I witness some sterile discussions about other territories that try to imitate certain Italian productions, and like it happens in fashions and many other items. The point is that in some parts of the world, especially in South America, those who provoked imitations or counterfeit was our fellow nationals, because they tried to, rebuild their businesses with the know-how that they had learned in their area of origin. But things became very complicated even in the light of exceptions. So in order to consider as avoidable something like that, we should support on the one side, but also provide a sort of a regional leverage. So let's not forget about the mountain place. I never heard anyone speaking about mountains, marginal areas. This is something where the geographical indications can play a very important role, especially in the light of the new APC, whereas the IG or the GI demonstrates that lots of things can be done. When I told them that, to the Strasbourg, that the high percentage of cheese, of Parmesan cheese, is done in the mountains, and that without that production, many farmers and breeders would have financial problems, they understood right away. So as to the consortium, but also as to the production set of rules, I believe that we are doing okay. I fully agree, and this is my last bit about sustainability, as we need to reach standards. We have standards for wine, for cold cuts, for all sorts of standards, and for all sorts of products. Some countries tend to have the sustainability certification for wine and not for other products, and then you need to have the company certification or sustainability certification, and the terroir, and so on and so forth. As to the CAP, it seems as if the new, the regional authorities are not management authorities. So it's clear that initially the agricultural policies is managed by the regional governments, and it's impossible not to have the GI without a regional investments. As we invested in our PSR, we had a transversal, a horizontal rule for those working in the designations, but also there were different projects mixing up large consortia to small ones, because sometimes the small consortia must cooperate with the large one in order to have some scale economies, and you need to have a certain critical mass in order to be effective. And in conclusion, this is very important. REPO worked on the new CAP, and that led to some position paper where the proposed amendment were the following. First of all, it's part of an amendment, and we need to support to the training for certification for consortia. But also, we need to have quality regime, and the consortia, they have to recognize the support of the purposely made operating things. And so I believe that we need to make sure that we clarify things when we put together the lists, and also the consortia has to be interviewed before and then also over time with necessary feedbacks. We had excellent results, but we need to manage the system better, because otherwise we can have some deformation mechanisms that do not really help the European Union to accredit the work that we are doing. But we need to continue, just like the Parliament says we should. Now, we have Francesco Di Antonio, chairman of Valori Italia, and he will share with us what he has to say in about 5 minutes. At 4:15, we need to end. So good afternoon to everyone. It's not easy to intervene or say something after such rich presentations so far. I wanted to make a comment on the 5 sessions that we just heard about. When we speak about trust, partnership or pact or agreement, well, this kind of agreement must be guaranteed and supported by institutions, by control organisms or entities, and control consortia. So it's important to promote enhancement and protection actions on the terrible dynamics of this market that is under constant evolution. Because in this case, consumers change their habits. I guess they have changing flavors, changing attitudes, and the internet did change things. And if the consumers before were careful about historical values, quality, value, origin, traceability, and so on and so forth, now we speak about other issues as well, sustainability, as we heard today so many times. But I'm wondering, what is the audience doing about sustainability? Private companies are having a hard time these days. When there were initiatives, unfortunately, were in a way disturbed by a lack of appreciation by the public. And so I believe that you need to have a specific position about it. We don't know whether these have to be certification, public standard, must they be volunteer-based, and so on and so forth. We can't wait anymore, because everyone said that sustainability is an essential element of our equation, and perhaps we need to change things in the light of sustainability. So even companies have to do so, but also the certification authorities and the consortia. We speak about blockchain. Is it a certain reality? Can we change it? Is it something that is going to last in the future? So all these beautiful initiatives must be truly supported by facts, and also the institution needs to clarify those things that are not clear. And then I would like to highlight something: the cost of certification. Be careful to speak about certification costs. These are opportunities for our companies. In a way, it's the permit that we are issuing to thousands of produce to be on the market with an EGP, and so it's a sort of an added value that you need in order to fight these market logics. And when we speak about governance of a denomination of a territory, I believe that these are other important elements. And I'm going beyond it, thinking that if we overcome the first step, we can start speaking about territorial certification. This means to network, just like the minister was saying today. But in order to speak about territorial certification, perhaps we need to start working about system certification. And for that, we need to have a strong cooperation among the different levels, the central government, the EU, the local authorities, and so on and so forth. There are still a lot of doubts because, if you need to have a sort of a partnership and networking, you need to have guidelines because otherwise it's going to be a failure. I'm going to skip that because I want to be punctual. I want to say something about the CAP. I read something about the new CAP, and I'm happy to see that the certification organisms or bodies will be involved in it as well. We are asked in order to be accompanying wine or olive oil being bottled by EU entrepreneurs or non-EU companies. And until a short time ago, the control would stop at the Italian border. And, the Italian vineyard is a market leader on an international level. So we cannot decrease this value. Perhaps we can review the certifications because, in a way, we are losing vineyards. And this is not strictly an Italian problem, but it's a European one. And so some criteria have to be revised according to the recent dynamics. As to bilateral agreements, it is absolutely constructive to have bilateral agreements for full recognition, especially on foreign markets and where we are weaker. And so we have to be careful without underestimating these aspects. And it would also be useful to guarantee the additional recognition of control organisms, both on European countries, but also on third-party countries. And so finding even, similar mechanisms would definitely help the work of consortia and companies when it comes to export their products and foodstuff. Having one single certification system would be really help. So if you need to have a system, we want a system. Please help us systemize our work. Otherwise, there will be only words left. And now let's go to the foreign guests. Paolo Amorin, who is the chairman of Anceve. 5 minutes for Paolo, and maybe he can tell us about Portugal and what they're doing and as to the EG, the GI in Portugal. So please forgive me for my Italian, but we are in Italy and I will really try to speak Italian. So thank you, Mauro, for your kind invitation and and allowing me to speak here. Your idea of letting people speak 3 minutes is much better. I don't know whether you're familiar with Portugal. It's a beautiful country. It's small, but we have a lot of different terroirs in Portugal. Consumers are going back to products of local origin. There is a growing trend towards that type of purchase. But also, like your Minister of Agriculture was saying, we do not have a specific focus, meaning we have too many institutes and embassies and states and consortia and that have no focus. We do not have much money to promote our local areas, and therefore we have this lack of focus that probably is the most important thing for us. Also in Portugal, we are the world champion of brocasia. There is a lack of geographical indication, and because the problem with bureaucracy is that it's too expensive for the IG, and consumers speak about the IG or the CDO, but they don't really know what is the difference. And even when it comes to communication and promotion, just like the minister mentioned earlier about Italians and promoting Italian product, perhaps God wanted Portuguese to share your same problems because we are much less important than Italy. But we do have similar problems. Just like Mauro said, I am the chairman of a winemakers association, and therefore for me it's easier to speak about wine. In Portugal, we have a problem between CDO, GPI, and other acronyms. For instance, there is a region where Porto is made. It's the most ancient wine area of the country, and there is a sort of a war between the PDO and the GI, and everyone would like to have the Douro because they believe that Douro is the only real Portuguese wine. And then in other regions as well, something similar is taking place. The green wine is one of the most known wines of Portugal. It is on an entry level. It's slightly sparkling. There is a Rius Domingo, but it's not made enough. It's not produced enough, and perhaps the GI would be useful in order to make it become like we did for the southern tip of Portugal in the Algarve. And we are quite complicated in Portugal. And then there's an additional situation that makes it that the credibility of the region and the brand is more important than the IG or GI scheme. So for consumers, it's better to have a producer that is well known rather than someone unknown coming from a GI. And some things have been quite good for the Portuguese economy, but also for the GI schemes and also the PDOs, and that is very good for promoting the country from a touristic point of view. But in conclusion, we should say something about olive oil. We do not virgin olive oil. We have only 6 PDOs, and only 2 of them are important. Like in terms of image, which is the region of Alentejo and Tradus Montes, which is in the north side of Portugal. So this, in brief, this is the situation of my country. So thank you very much, Mauro. Thank you, Paolo. And now we are going to Norway. Edgar Nina is in charge of Matmerk. It's the organization trying to promote geographical indications in Norway. We met a few years ago in the Lopter Islands that have been recorded and recognized for the fish of those regions. And at Merke, Nina told me, explained to me what Norway does in order to support GIs.
Thank you very much for the invitation here. I could wish I understood what you said about me, but I'm working with the geographical indications in Norway. And since Norway isn't a member of the European Union, we have our own national labeling scheme. It's based in the It's based on the EU regulation. It's the same rules. And it was introduced in Norway in 2002. And today we have 29 products in Norway that has achieved a PDO or a PGI, and 2 of them are recognized in the EU. And the familiarity with the labeling scheme in Norway is insufficient. The knowledge is very low, and that is one of the main challenges in Norway with the GI. We have no traditions for GI in Norway. The product names or the quality are not linked to the geographical origin. So we have to teach the consumer and the chefs and everyone that is interested in food and drinks all about what effect the geographical area may have on some products. Of course, the Norwegians know a lot of the well-known products, prosciutto di Parma, Parmigiano Reggiano, Roquefort, Stilton cheese, a lot of them who has achieved the PDO or PGI in the European Union. But they don't know what's behind the labeling scheme. They don't know about the protection or the guarantee. They don't know these products. They don't know the history, the tradition, the quality, and the very, very strong link to the geographical area. Because the logo, if you ask the Norwegian consumer, have you seen the Norwegian logo for PDO or PGI before? About 5% says, yes, we have seen the logo, but what does it mean? The logo doesn't communicate what's behind it. So what do we do to promote geographical indications in Norway? Well, we don't have big promotion campaigns because we don't have the resources for that. But what we are doing and are planning to do is this. We are trying to get as much publicity as we can with every new PDO and PGI we are having in Norway. We also write articles in the trade magazines, the magazines for the chefs, in newspaper and so on. And this year we are starting a cooperation with some of the regions in Norway. We will try to get the travel industry to use GI as important markers for tourism. So we will try to promote the GI through the tourism. And we also are trying to get information in the education of the young chefs in Norway, because we know that it's important. You know, the chefs in Norway also know about familiar and the well-known products in the EU. But I don't know that we have 29 products that has achieved a geographical indication in Norway, and what that means about the Norwegian food tradition. So we have to do a job there too. We have for several years tried to make cooperation with the producers that has achieved the geographical indications. And last year we organized a Nordic conference in Norway with Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Åland and Iceland, where we discussed how we can use the geographical indication to increase the value of the tourism, because we see that the tourism and the travel industry is a key here too. Our goal is to increase the knowledge about the geographical indication, and then the tourism and some of the regions can show and use the geographical indication to strengthen the link to the geographical area and show that we have a lot of good and fine and rich food and drink culture in Norway, and that will be good for the travel industry, and that will be good for the producers of the geographical indications and the community.
Nina,
yeah?
time is finished.
Yes, I'm finished. I will just to then say that we strongly believe in cooperation with the producers, with the travel industry, with the community and everybody, because this is a too difficult task to do alone. So thank you very much.
Grazie, grazie. Ed ora abbiamo
Kenichi Kuroyawi, il responsabile del Ministero
giapponesi delle indicazioni geografiche. Proprio in questi giorni è entrato in vigore il GEFTA, il trattato di libero scambio fra Europa e Giappone, e la capodivisione della proprietà intellettuale.
Grazie, mi chiamo Kenichi Kuroiwa. This is highly honored to be here with you. I'm from Japanese Ministry of Agriculture. Today, I'd like to talk about the economic partnership agreement between Japan and EU. This is because it has just entered into force this February this year. I have three topics to share with you. First is the Japanese history of GI, and second is its benefit of the EPA, and the third is the future activity for GI. So let me begin. Unlike the GS system in Europe, Japan does not have a long history in Geographical Indication Act. In 2015, about 3 years ago, Japanese GS system started. To introduce the GS system to Japan, we have learned a lot from the EU system, which has long history and recognized by many people. And so far, we have registered 73 products as a GI. And for example, fresh meat, such as Kobe beef, and fruits like kitoyuzu, and processed foods, such as ichidagaki. In addition to the domestic products, we also registered the GI for foreign products as well. The first non-Japanese GI is from Italy. It is the prosciutto di Parma. And it is very valued by Japanese consumer, and personally, I really love it. And as you may notice, Japanese GI does not have a long history, but it has a profound relationship with the EU. And now, one big change has happened. It is the Japanese-European EPA. EU is our first partner for mutual protection of GI. From now on, both countries protect the GI in its own market, and it's lead to eliminate infringement use of the GI. For instance, Italian GI products Asiago, and French GI Roquefort, and Spanish GI Stores Valencianos protected in Japan. I expect you to convey its deliciousness of the EU GI product to Japanese consumers. And here in EU, Japan GI such as Kobe beef are protected. And we are very overjoyed because it will contribute to the increase of the export of Japanese GI products. And I do hope more and more people enjoy delicious GI products in both countries. Moreover, in response to Japan-EU EPA, we amendment Japanese GI Act to protect the GI at a higher level. Before the amendment, we restricted labeling GI on the products and its packages, but after the amendment, we regulate the menu and advertisement and internet website. And additionally, the illustration, which may cause misunderstanding in public, is also restricted. As a result, we can protect the GI at a similar level to the EU GS system. I recognize that the Qualivita Foundation is a kind of NPO, and which is a local contact for international exchange activity. And we would like to continue on having the opportunity to exchange the GI information with you. And furthermore, Japan wants to contribute to raise awareness of GI. And actually, last year, we held the event of Japanese GI in UNESCO in Paris. And similarly, we also held the event of EU GI cheese in Tokyo last year. As a presentation from the European Union was very popular among Japanese consumers. Of course, we have a budget constraint, but we would like to contribute working on improving understanding of GS system and its products through events like this. We hope that the Japanese EU EPA will make GI to be more attractive than ever. Thank you for your kind attention.
Grazie al Giappone che è venuto a trovarci. Ed ora è la volta delle associazioni. Nicola Cesare Baldrighi, presidente di AICIG, che rappresenta i consorzi del mondo agroalimentare. Nicola, ti prego di stare nei 5 minuti a te assegnati.
Beh, innanzitutto grazie dell'opportunità e della vostra presenza. Quello che mi preme sottolineare.
Thank you for this opportunity and your presence. I would like to point out that within this word, a universally known, recognized agitation, because they were sufficiently smart to create this, to think about this possibility. And we were able to understand from the two previous interventions and also from other initiatives which were concern the geographical indication word, that the duty that we have as an organization whose aim is to collect all the geographical indication and consortia making reference to is to support this spirit and accompany it through an action with the Ministry for Agriculture, which is working hard in this direction in order to adapt the sets of regulations like the community regulations issued 5 years ago, which now needs an updating, and we are now trying to promote. So all these activities certainly implemented in a proactive way. So the first thing we must think about a legislative adaptation, because we need a unique coordination. Many of the speakers who have talked this today, there is a need for promotion and of training also, because We must enter to enter the mindset of consortium, protection consortium, in order to promote a unique product, independently from separation that exists within producer. It's an important element, and the organization must take care of these, because it is extremely anyway heterogeneous, and different supply chain must be accompanied in these and maintain their diversity. So the consortium gives us this opportunity, because the new regulation will be simplified as far as the set of regulation will be concerned. They were created together with the regulation. They have 25 years history, and they present some old elements, but above all, they have to face a world which has evolved in a with a very quick pace. So we must simplify our approach on one side, and on the other side, we need regulation in order to facilitate all this. And then we cannot forget the other important aspect of geographical indication and of CAP, which is an element which is important for the activity. And we have the duty to protect producers of raw materials. So important for the geographical indication in their together must consider a equitable sharing of the value on all the players. This is important, because if we don't have this type of spillover effect, we can compromise all the results. As far as the valuing of label and trademark is, above all, when we are near the border, there is a sort of commercial fight, not only for designation, denomination, but it's a battle between enterprises. So our competitors outside Italy, it's not a cheese against another cheese or salami against another salami. Most of the time, our competitors are private enterprise with which we must work. So the positive aspect of our geographical indication, I say that as a consortium, it will be important to address those who operate commercially. So we cannot forget these enterprises, and regulations and must favor this kind of development and activity. The other point, essential point, is the protection. Protection means a set of regulation, legislation, which allows us to protect our product, and means also to have the possibility to get economical resources, which are less and less. We have a great fragmentation of resources, and these makes them less efficient, but the possibility of accessing to resources for the protection activities, which are more and more difficult and complex, is extremely important. So just to conclude, I would like to thank you. So we hope it will be a great effort, and our commitment to coordinate in the best way in order to make geographic indication and consortium which represents them, to help them to develop further. So Stefano Zanetti, Vice President FederDoc. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for your invitation. I had a lot of things to say, but since I am the last one, some topics have been dealt with. One thing which was already mentioned, and I would like to highlight again, is that in Italy we have heritage, and as far as denomination, of origin are so many, and but the problem is that the consortia are not able to manage all of them. And as far as one is concerned, for example, this is a great handicap. So the idea is to create a system, to create a network. This must also include a management of consortia in order to create cluster. This is my own opinion, and I see that at national level there are about 60 consortia which operate, but we have hundreds of denominations. So from this, this entails a sort of non-capability, not only in promotion and protection, but above all incapability to communicate that. This moment, which is a symbol of excess of communication, we are not able to communicate how smart we are, how good we are, so we don't have this strength for expressing our characteristics. And quite often there is a sort of bad information, misinformation, because those, above all, those who are attacking us is the result. I mean, sometimes we have problems because of misinformation. I feel guilty in a certain way, but the truth is that we were not so strong to fight against this. So we have the capacity, the possibility to govern production. We have tools on one side, but we lack the possibility to manage what is outside our denominations. There are examples in Italy which are also when you have denomination where there is a block of plants, for example, but they continue to be included in the denomination, and this causes problems to the existing denominations. And so it's important to think that some denominations can be on the market in order to safeguard and protect the economical aspects. So denomination is not something stupid. It's really a need, a concrete need. We must also think, since we don't do that like French, since French, they have a minimum price for bottles. We should, thanks to the help of the universities, we should try to fix a minimum price or a cost price per bottle, including all the aspects, for example, concerning marketing, etc. So if we want to talk about sustainability, this is a topic which has been dealt with this morning. There was this initiative in order to create a private standard called Equalitas, and within our wine sector we had to fight against other initiatives, more or less private. So what has been done by those who have talked before me is we need to be clear, to have certainty about what the private want to do, so the bodies want to do, and how much the public bodies want to do, because they're wasting time on this subject, and it's a problem. This is creating a lot of problems of for example, interaction with the local community. As far as sustainability is concerned, I think there is one thing which has to be done. We must innovate innovate the set of regulations. We must direct them towards direct to measures for environmental sustainability. A very important point is for the resistant. So if there is a participation, an active participation of producer enterprise, when I talk about responsibilities, it's also responsibility towards the other. Thank you very much. Mr. Polizzi, Minister of Agriculture, you have 5 minutes. Maybe you can reply to some of the questions asked. So first of all, thanks to Qualivita, which has organized this type of event and discussion as far as quality is concerned. It was I listened to the intervention this morning with a great interest, and there were important suggestions. 5 minutes is not enough, so I just will provide you with an update of our activity. First of all, we want to communicate that today there are 150 consortium recognized. It's a FOLEM of the central Italy. Last year we had another one, even more important, for this Pasta di Gragnano consortium, and there were many interviews on the newspaper and many TV broadcasting about this reality, which, although important, was not very well known. This is just to say that a consortium is a very important tool for developing a geographical indication, and as such has to be helped in its growth in order to face also the criticality which has to face every day. So in a few days we will submit a draft of a decree which review or simplify all the previous decrees dated the year 2000. So we are upgrading, modernizing, simplifying all the decrees on this subject. There were about 10 decrees in force concerning the discipline for recognition of agri-food is grouped in one decree only. This will submit many novelties, which will be the subject of a debate with the consortium. So on one side we have simplification, on the other side we must give an answer to consortia which are not able to reach 66%, because we need to create a startup also for consortia which do not reach a level, an aggregation level such to be used as an element of governance. So we are trying to harmonize criteria provided for in the wine and agri-food sector. In wine we have two thresholds, 51 and 61%, and there is a second requirement, it is the number of cards. And another point which is more qualifying, which is actually introduced in this decree for the wine consortia, and we cannot have recognized consortia for products which are not certified. So in order to reach that threshold, in one case they need 40%, in another case 50% of certified products. In the olive oil sector, as you know, we have a situation where the product is not certified because, as someone recalled this morning, it's a commercial event, it's not certified, and so we don't know what kind of activity the consortium can perform if it is not put on the shelf. themselves as with a geographical indication. So these are two important elements in our new decree. Another topic, believe me, consortia, I came here just to provoke some. It's very important to talk about consortia, but I already said that last year with Paolo De Castro and on the occasion of the wine consortia decree. I believe that the job which has been made by many consortium and are actually some enterprise and which wants to act as enterprises, I believe that consortia as a status is no longer sufficient. We must think about overcoming of this level. Maybe many of you may be worried about that. Okay, no, I'm just saying let's start with consortium in order to help growing the system of geographical indication. But today we need to fall within the great family of association and producer, which actually represents better characteristic than consortia. When I read the slide where we said consortia have to do this, invest in consortia, etc., I believe that all this because consortia cannot do that. Even in wine sector, we have tried to use and translate from the European community legislation certain points, but we have seen that in our decree, for example, there is a 3-year plan, but this is not part of the consortium status. And I talk about that directly with Honorable De Castro. Rules which were set and which were implemented on competition, etc., do not involve consortia because they are addressed to the family of producer organization or other interprofessional organization. I think that we must rethink about that and see if and how we can overcome this model of consortia. We need to change page and become a sort of enterprise, a sort of organization model in the supply chain as it has been provided. Another subject, and always to provoke you, I'm not very passionate with sustainability because the risk is, I'm sorry if I'm probably taking more than 5 minutes, but this is an important subject. I remember that more than 10 years ago, when we were talking about the geographical indication, above all of the meaning of quality, there were 2 blocks at the community level. I was in Brussels, so results brought by Baldrighi was the result of what we have done in Europe. 10 years ago, the block of quality, there was a block of continental countries which defined qualities exactly what we define as sustainability. That is product in compliance with European policy as far as animal well-being, human health, etc. So for continental countries, the content and the compliance with these politics is a product of quality for them. We sustain, we confirm the qualities based on the territory, on the terroir, and the quality of the product which are acquired from that terroir, and therefore from tradition, etc. So the risk, but it's not it's a well-calculated risk, is that at community level, if the other commission goes to this direction, they want what I have always contrasted. They have avoided that such requirements of sustainability are introduced in a tool which has other aims. That is, prove how this product acquire the geographical indication according to its quality. So elements which make references to environmental sustainability, that is, the fact of not using other type of chemical products for the production. I believe that this has to be kept outside the set of regulations. So for the same region, we can plan a sort of intervention for this type. And we believe that we must leave the free action for private activity. In the future, we'll have to discuss about these topics, and we'll submit a proposal of decree which tends to simplify, and we must know that we are always ready to listen to you, to producers, and try to comply with your requirements. Thank you, Luigi. Thank you very much. Now it's Marie Guittard who is going to speak. She will speak in Italian. Let's say goodbye to Simona Caselli, who has to leave for Berlin. Marie Guittard is the main responsible for safe quality in France, and we have discussed how to renew politics of quality at the European level. So first of all, we would like to thank you for having been invited to this event. So I have listened to the different speakers and understand the importance of product of quality in Italy and also in Tuscany. The same thing in France. In France, after many years, the product of a geographical indication have represented the most important tools for agricultural politics, agri-food politics, and development of the territory, above all for the mountain region. And this tool have been used by many, above all in the sector of wine and cheese sector. Most of the geographical indication which has to be protected by competition were registered in Brussels. Obviously, we take a lot of care. We are very careful about the evolution of European regulation. In particular, we are against any weakening of definition of the so-called PDO. And in particular, we are against the suggestion of the Commission to cancel human factors within definition of PDO. But in France, professionals are mobilized on two topics. The first one, how the geographical indication can meet expectations of society as far as environment, animal well-being is concerned. So if there is a geographical indication which passes to the strength of the lien between consumers and the price they accept to pay in order to get the product. Consumers cannot be deceived with respect to their expectations. And therefore, French people believe that geographical indication must guarantee a level of promise as far as the subject of environmental respect and animal well-being are concerned. So there are two questions. Which is the guarantee level with respect to the basis standard for products? And this guarantee, and is this guarantee be included in the set of regulations or being the object of individual or collective obligation outside the set of regulation? The second topic in France concerns the climate change. You know that geographical indication products are linked to natural conditions where they are produced. And there are, or you can observe already some effects concerning temperature, yield, and cultures, and productions, technical productions. So in the next 10 years, the climate change might modify both production conditions and their characteristic, organoleptic characteristics, and therefore their markets. With the support of INRA, which is a public body for research, French research, French professionals are mobilized in order to define a national strategy for adaptation to climate change. The most advanced work concerns viticulture. Together with INRA, we made an exercise which allowed us to identify for the next 30 years 4 possible scenarios corresponding to a dominating strategy. The first one, the so-called conservative strategy, where the technological and geographical change are limited. The second, a nomad strategy, where changes in viticulture is the main factor of change. The third one, the innovating strategy, where adaptation is made thanks to innovation without displacing the wine production. And then the fourth one is the global strategy, open to any change. So the idea of French professionals is concerns an hypothesis, to focus on this hypothesis. All the means, a reform of CAPA, regulatory means, French and European regulatory means, financial means, in order to favor the strategy which will be selected or chosen, and in order to act so as the other strategies are not implemented. All these hypotheses, assumptions need to take into consideration some modification of some sets of regulations or products, and also to point out that all these assumptions need contribution, involvement of consumers. Also for the different evolutions. So is question about the answer to be given to expectation of the society as far as animal well-being and climate change are concerned? Are they at the height of challenges for products, French geographical indication products? So the Ministry of Agriculture, the French Ministry for Agriculture, will be always very interested to participate to this type of event where we can hear and we can take into consideration all the different solutions in order to be able to maintain and, if possible, develop geographical indication. Thank you very much.
Grazie Marie, veramente grazie.
Thank you, Marie, really thank you. The conclusion of our kickoff meeting is from Paolo Di Castro, which is a member of the European Parliament and is the president also. Alors, first of all, I would like to be happy, with all the organization of these 2 days events on quality, 2 very interesting days, which prove that Qualivita Foundation as central, as a sort of civic defensor. This was one of our definition a few years ago for the certified quality system. And then there also be a growth of debates. Subjects dealt today were very important. So at a certain point, Consortia has to be faced according to legislative novelties. There have been innovation, and from the juridical point of view, legal point of view, there is a certain superiority. And these are open sets of considerations concerning the discussion about the control guarantee authority. And this has to be joined to other spaces given to consortia. We are talking about, for example, the milk packet when we started a battle for reduction in production, and all these has given consortia some special roles. So there is not one single response or reply. We must be aware that this has been sanctioned by this superiority, this priority. So we must define the PDO or consortium PDO or IGP. We must find solutions. There is also a legislative tool, that is a reform of CAP. Nothing will be completed within this legislative period. We'll have to face transitional regulations which will extend of about a year this plan, so we'll have the time. And this is an invitation not only for Qualivita but for all the consortia world, in order to invite them to work in the future, in order to exploit the CAP to make this change and get more tools to make in order to allow these consortia to become more efficient. Above all, the consortia which are not only an enterprise and want to be more efficient on the market. There is also another subject, a subject of simplification. We hope that there will be the opportunity of simplifying things. Not all the consortia have the same weight. So if we have to modify the set of regulations of Parmigiano-Reggiano, it's not the same thing as changing the set of regulation of a small consortium. So for certain, there are when they have large economical dimensions, the European Commission will give its approval, or in other case not. So, as Mauro said, we were talking about 16 billion euros, so it's not only, certainly we talk about culture and other things. We are talking about an extremely important economical asset, which is growing, which will grow again in the future. So we must have a certain lobbying capacity, and we must act so as the system of the geographical indication system, we must make it more visible and present in Europe. It has to be clear that when we touch this subject, there is a counterpart. So we cannot think about modifying European legislation if there is not the presence and the organized lobby, which can affirm their conviction. And so in the European Parliament, we already have organized this type of meeting. So here we are together with, among us, not only Italians, also French, Portuguese, and Spanish friend. So the interest for this kind is in 4 or 5 countries. So in Europe, there are 28 countries. So the effort we have to make is a very important effort. When we talk about the system of PDO, geographical indication, etc., we are talking about the Eastern of 4 or 5 countries. Most of Europe is not very interested in it, but Europe, there are 20-25 countries which are not interested at all in this. So our effort is very, very huge. So just to conclude all this story, this has not improved the European attention. At the time of Seattle round, I was there as a minister. Believe me, when we were talking about PDG and PDO, they started laughing because why are you wasting your time with these, with our other important things in the food sector today? On the contrary, I'm talking about Mastrom, for example. Now they are very conscious about that, and they talk about the subject of denomination of origin, etc. And this is important to say that we have a new role at European level. We must do more. It's very important. And there is still a lot to do, but we must do this together. Europe gives us the possibility to have denomination of origin. Now we must work together in order to transform this opportunity as a further push to development of this sector. Thank you to everyone. Our forum is concluded. We'll meet in Brussels on April the 5th with all our friends. Thank you very much.